Hello there. This is Paul Glumaz again, a 44-year activist in the LaRouche movement. Today is the anniversary, the 17th anniversary, of 9/11, and this day. We have the only major concert in New York that the LaRouche movement is doing commemorating 9/11. And this day is the day we are coming very close now to war between the U.S. and Russia. What's going on is there is this massive assault on Donald Trump with the Bob Woodward operation. And then the op-ed in the New York Times by someone claiming to be on the inside of the Trump administration, high up, saying there is resistance to Trump, massive resistance internally, to prevent him from doing anything that he wants to do. Now, what is it that Trump wants to do? He wants to have better relations with China and Russia. He wants to end terrorism. He wants infrastructure development. So if there is a massive resistance inside the U.S. government trying to prevent him from doing those things, then this is very serious. And yes, there is a massive resistance to Donald Trump to do those things. And that massive resistance is John Bolton, Mike Pence, Nikki Haley. That's the resistance movement. That is the resistance movement. These are the neocons. They intend to stop those things that we just described. They got Michael Flynn out of there, who was key, who would have been the national security advisor that would have made it possible for Donald Trump to do a lot of these things. And one of the people that was close to Michael Flynn is Virginia State Senator Richard Black. And he went to Syria to meet with Assad, and he gave Will Wertz of our organization an interview. He was also interviewed by Sputnik and other places. And he has the most cogent explanation of the real situation in Syria. Now, what's going on is that there is a concentration of the most hardened terrorists in a place called Idlib province in the northwestern part of Syria. And Syria has to shut them down, has to stop them, because you can't have 40, 50,000 of these people in a province, and you're running a province in your country and running terrorism all over your country. You have to shut them down. Now, embedded in those, with those terrorists are hundreds of U.S. military people, French, NATO, and British, definitely British, and Canadian. You're not being told this, but they're bringing in arms and supplies for these terrorists to put up a fight against the military of Assad, the Russian, Hezbollah, and Iran, and others. Now, sitting a little north of there is a massive troop formation of the Turkish troops, who have an issue with Syria taking over this area, because the Turks have been sponsoring Al-Qaeda. This is Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda is what's running it. The same people that allegedly did 9/11, or took the credit for 9/11, they're the same people that you're looking at here. Okay? This is Al-Qaeda. Right? This is who the U.S. is supporting. And now the U.S. is getting ready to go to war with Russia in order to stop the crushing of Al-Qaeda in the Idlib pocket. Now, obviously, Donald Trump is not part of this. This is not probably what he wants. But he's under massive attack. And there is a resistance, and that is the resistance. The resistance is John Bolton, Mike Pence, Nikki Haley, they're the obvious open part of it, including in that is the Justice Department and elements of the intelligence community and the military and so forth and so on. So there is a massive resistance going on inside the government, and they've made it very clear. They surfaced in the op-ed of the New York Times. So now, what's happening right now is that the Russians had intelligence going back quite a while, a week or two, about the British intelligence setting up the pretext for an attack to defend Al-Qaeda, or using that as a pretext to do a massive bombing of Syria, Syria generally, sending it back to the Stone Age. This would be the pretext for that. The Russians have essentially pre-exposed the plans, the details, and the response of the British and the U.S. government is no. Assad has already decided to launch a chemical attack. Has already decided to launch a chemical attack, and the Russians are just covering for what has already been decided. So the U.S. government, Nikki Haley, Bolton, and all these people, the resistors in the government are saying that it's already done. It's a done deal. Assad's going to do it. And the Russians are showing evidence that it's British intelligence, the white helmets, the usual suspects, and they're saying that they may have already done the filming. Simultaneous to this, YouTube has blocked all news coming out of Syria. I mean, all government outlets, all reporting coming from Syria is being blocked on YouTube. And probably also Twitter. I don't know about that. That's preparing for war. Now, the U.S. has carriers in that region, and they have moved the carriers back because Russia has very sophisticated electronic capability and technology that can knock out those carriers. The very fact that they're moving the carriers back, but have such massive firepower in the area, and Russia has massive firepower in the area, and the Russians have made it very clear. There's a line that if you cross, Russia will defend Syria with their advanced technologies, with the advanced radar capabilities, if you cross that line. And the resistance inside the U.S. government is trying to have enough clout. As Trump is coming under, being pinned down, it's being massive attack, to have enough clout to get away with crossing that line so that war emerges in that area. Now, from their standpoint, it doesn't matter who wins the war or anything like that. That will end Trump's government right there. That will end Trump because he promised the American people that he was going to end all of this. He promised the American people that he was going to pull out of all these areas. We had no business in the Middle East. We spent a quarter of our national, or more than a quarter of our national debt there. He campaigned on that. He campaigned on better relations with Russia. And that would be the end of Trump. So that's what's going on. This is the most serious threat that we have seen, because what's happening is the power that runs these neocons, that runs the resistance, that runs the City of London financial system, they're going under. They're also facing a financial disintegration. There's talk all over the United States, on the Hill, in Political, and other places, about the resurgence of discussion of Glass-Steagall, that people are getting very worried that the financial system's going to go. Already you have massive attacks on other nations' currencies, and you have blowback into the corporate debt. You have a real crisis now. Emerging on the financial system. So you have less than 60 days before the midterm, and so they're not going to wait for the midterms. They're going to move now to crush Trump. They're not going to wait till the midterms. They don't know what the American people are going to do at the midterms. They can't count on the American people voting against Trump. and bringing in a Democratic Congress. They can't count on that. That's how serious the situation is in the population. There is a massive, massive rejection of the establishment in the population. And Trump is the only thing that people see that might do something that might be of any benefit to the population. Certainly a war in the Middle East and a war with Russia is not to their benefit. So the entire media apparatus is going to go totally berserk on the chemical weapons. Everybody's going to be sticking it to Trump. You got to do something, you got to do something, you got to do something. And if he doesn't do anything, they're just going to keep howling. And then he's depending on the evangelical right-wing element to support him. Okay, that's Fox, and that's that element. So this is a very, very messy situation. At the same time, Trump has open communications with Putin, and U.S. military has open communications with their counterparts, and so forth and so on. So maybe we'll get through this or not. I don't know, but this is the most serious. This is more serious than the other situations. This is the most serious that we've seen. Because Syria and Russia cannot allow the Idlib pocket to be a festering sore in Syria. And then you have the issue of the Turks militarily going in, which is what they're saying they might do. So that makes it very complicated. And who knows what the Turks are up to. Their primary concern is the Kurds. So this is what we're looking at. This is what we're looking at. This is huge. And it's all going to be unfolding in the week or two ahead, if not already. If tomorrow morning you don't, or late tonight, or tomorrow morning. Usually they wait for the weekend, because that's when it's hard for people to respond during the weekend. On the weekend, they usually do these things on a Friday. So that's where we are now. I've been out with a campaign, with a poster, big poster. It says, "Donald can't do it alone. America be great again." And I'm going to different places. I was in Vancouver. We were in Spokane, Bremerton. We're in the south part of Seattle, the north part. What we're encountering is a very interesting situation. There is a unification of a section of the population around the identity of Donald Trump. But it doesn't have a programmatic understanding of what has to be done. These are not the most literate or people that have thought through all these things. But they're coming around Trump because they see in his optimism, they see in his demeanor that he's not tolerant to the media, and he's not tolerant to the consensus that comes out of the media. And these people are coming out, and you're unifying a large portion of African Americans, Hispanics, blue collar, seniors, middle class, poor, especially immigrants from Asia, Latin America, Eastern Europe, Africa, a lot of the African immigrants. To them, Trump represents the America that they came to. The optimism, you can get ahead in life, you can have a future, and so forth and so on. And also, these are families, these newer immigrants are very family oriented, and they don't want to see their kids turned into drug addicts, or have them totally wondering what kind of sex they are. They're not really interested in having their kids, in grade school having to talk about what kind of sex they are. But that doesn't mean that they have a full programmatic idea of what has to be done, and that is the job that the LaRouche movement is promoting. So we are entering this crisis, and the midterm elections are up for grabs. Trump is campaigning very much. So it appears to me that they're going to try to hit them off at the pass with this whole chemical weapon thing that's being set up in Syria, which is being exposed. The Russians are exposing everything. They're providing the evidence of, these are the chemicals. This is what the people that are going to do. The chemicals have arrived. This is what they're going to do. and the U.S. media and the U.S. government is saying, no, that's a Russia supporting the plan of Syria to use chemical weapons. So this is amazing. I've never seen anything like this, and it's very troubling. It's extremely troubling because we're on the edge of war. We're on the edge of war. The resistance inside the Trump administration is coordinating with the impeachment crowd. It's coordinating with the media. That's what's going on. And that is Pence, Nikki Haley, John Bolton. And I'm making that statement, and I may have to eat it later, but I'm making that statement. That's the resistance. That's what you're dealing with. But it's a turning point situation, because the city of London, the empire, will go down. If Syria becomes whole, that's it. Why? Because they will have defeated the terrorists that were backed by the West. And all the terrorists in the world will know that there's no future for them. The terrorists will feel abandoned. And that's because the terrorists depend on the U.S. They depend on financial support from the British, from the U.S., from the offshore system. They depend on this. You think they're risking their lives for nothing just because they believe in whatever crazy thing they believe in? No. They believe they're being massively supported. The Saudis are supporting them, but it's not just the Saudis. It's the United States. Government has been supporting them. The United States government has been training them. Michael Flynn was exposing this. And they're still training them. And the U.S. has troops embedded in with Al-Qaeda right now in Idlib province. And they're going to get killed. U.S. troops. Not in the thousands, but in the hundreds, yes. So this is what you're dealing with. Israelis are up into their necks in it, supporting it logistically, operations. So this is what's going on. It's a proxy war, and it's about to end. And these people don't want Syria whole. They don't want stability in the Middle East. They don't want economic development in the Middle East. They don't want the Belt and Road coming through the Middle East, through Iran, and then through Turkey into Europe. The rail infrastructure and the trade. They want to maintain sanctions on Iran. They want to put more sanctions on Russia. They want to sanction any country that trades with Iran. Why? Because it's economic warfare. They want to stop the Belt and Road Initiative. They're massively funding and supporting Islamic terrorists and training Islamic terrorists inside China and Xinjiang province. And these are called the Uyghurs. And so you have this huge campaign about how China is mistreating the Uyghurs and how they're putting them in detentions. Well, if they're terrorists, yeah, you're going to put them in detentions. You got to do something with them. You can't let them go around killing people, which is what they were doing in China. Oh, but those poor people. Oh, humanitarian assistance. Oh, we got to save the civilians. Well, the Syrians are the most meticulous in not killing civilians because those are the people that they want. They don't want to kill their own people. Meanwhile, the U.S. went into Raqqa and Mosul, liberated those places by saturation bombing of the civilians. The U.S. doesn't. The U.S. has the worst record for murdering civilians in that area. Oh, we gotta save the terrorists because we don't want to hurt the civilians. I mean, this is like really sick. This is absolutely sick. And today is the 17th anniversary of 9/11, when these terrorists were supposedly involved in 9/11 and bringing down the towers. Well, if we're supporting the terrorists now, we probably were also within our government, we're supporting the terrorists then. Yeah, right. If we've been supporting the terrorists ever since, and we've been putting them in Guantanamo and sorting them out and finding out which one of the ones we can have go back in as terrorists, well, what is Guantanamo? Guantanamo is a breeding place for more terrorists. That's what Guantanamo is. Oh, we're going to put them in. Why do you put them in Guantanamo? Oh, because we want to put them there so we can work on them. We can figure out, like Belhaj, he was in Guantanamo. He was a leading terrorist in Libya, involved in directly with he was brought back. He was told, "Oh, Gaddafi, we got all these reformed terrorists for you. They're out to kill you in the past, but let's be friends. Let's make peace." Blah blah blah. They bring these people in, and they're part of the whole overthrow of Gaddafi, and they were part of Benghazi. The same people that we had in Guantanamo, that we got forced Gaddafi to accept, to prepare him for the slaughter. Right. And guess who played the most important role in the U.S.? John McCain. He went there and organized. He was there on the ground telling all the militias to rebel against Gaddafi, that the U.S. would back them up. And then he didn't back them up. We only backed up the jihadis. The U.S. didn't back up. They backed up the militias to overthrow Gaddafi, but once Gaddafi was overthrown, then they went and got the weapons and sent them to Turkey to send into Syria for the terrorists. And then we didn't support the militias that overthrew Gaddafi, who were not Islamic terrorists. We didn't support those. We only supported the Islamic terrorists after Gaddafi was overthrown. John McCain, there's pictures of him with al-Baghdadi. Pictures of him with the terrorists in Syria. He went to Syria. What the hell is this all about? John McCain, the great hero, the wonderful guy in the Senate, Bernie Sanders loved him very much, even, blah, 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 blah. Well, what's going on here? That guy's a sick dude. Dick Cheney helped to get us into the war during the Bush administration, but there were a lot of people in the Bush administration didn't want to go into Iraq in 2003. And they almost stopped it. One of them was the Secretary of State, Colin Powell. Another one was George Bush's father, Sr. Another one was George Bush's father's associate, Ben Scowcroft. They were opposing Dick Cheney. But who was out there in public with Joe Lieberman? None other than John McCain. John McCain was massively being presented by the media and pushing from the Senate for war with to have U.S. troops go into Iraq. The great hero. All the peaceniks in the Democratic Party love him. Why? Because they're nuts. They've lost their mind. They have lost their mind. They've gone into Trump derangement syndrome. Why? Because Trump is illiberal. Illiberal meaning he's not a liberal. He doesn't cater to liberalism. And they are very offended. And they would rather have war than work with Trump. They would rather have war than work with Trump, who's probably for a lot of the things that they believe in, but they would rather have war than work with Trump.